Also using Excel, there's some other interesting things we can do with XML data. Uh, Now, in the example we just showed you, we opened up just an XML file. What we're going to do in the following example is show you how you can use Excel to create a template which can then be used for a user to fill out the data and then save as XML. The XML file can then be used by another program. For example, you may want to create an expense report template that is used by staff to fill out expense reports. They can then save the file as XML, and then it can be processed by an application to load that into the main expense tracking database for your company or agency. So to do that, we'll go ahead and jump back into Excel. We'll show you a little bit about how this works. We're going to go ahead and use our hierarchical data example, which had the permit and contacts. So jumping back to my file system, I'll grab the example with the contact in it. And this time, instead of using an XML table as how we'd like to open it, we're going to open it as an XML source. Okay, so it opens up this special little window on the side here. And we're going to drag fields out of this map and drop them onto our spreadsheet. And what we're going to do is, what we're essentially doing here is creating a template that users can then fill out. So maybe you could use this, I guess, in context of this example, as a template for creating a new permit. Now note that Excel figured out the data hierarchy just by examining the file we used as the source. So it knows that there's a permit list with a permit object, and that permit has a list of contacts. So to use this, we can go ahead and drag the permit number out. We can tell it to put the labels to the left or above the field. And we'll say to the left. So we have a field called permit number. We're going to do the same for issue date. And lastly, the permit status. Lastly, we want to put in the contacts, so we'll grab the contacts list and we're just going to pop it right here. And we get a whole table in this case because we know there can be a whole list of contacts for a single permit. All right, I'm through here. I'm done building my template, so I can close out the XML source. Great. Now I could save this and distribute it throughout my company or my agency, and different staff could use this to enter in basic information about a new permit. So we'll switch hats here and pretend that we're adding a new permit to our system. We'll put in the permit number, issue date, permit status, and we'll add our contacts. Great. So we've got the basic information about the permit filled out, and let's tell it to save as XML. We'll call this new permit. Okay, done. So let's go ahead and take a look at that file we just created, new permit. And we'll open this up in just a text viewer. And sure enough, Excel saved the data in an XML format, and it looks really similar to the example we first showed you early in the presentation. Already you can start to see how XML is friendly and practical and used by a lot of different programs. So we'll get out of here, jump back to our presentation. For our next example of XML in action, we're going to take a look at an RSS newsfeed. RSS stands for Really Simple Syndication. It's a way that you can use a web browser to create a customized list of news items or any sort of information that's provided from a news feed, a news source. So in the case we have here, we have an example of a web address where there is a feed published. Now this actually happens to be a set of release notes for a certain software product, and we could go ahead and open up. Okay, so opening that feed in Firefox, And normally what this would do is create a what they call a live bookmark in Firefox, where you can see a drop-down item showing all of the news items or articles in the news feed. But if we look under the hood, we can see that actually the RSS feed is in fact just an XML file. So the title of the news feed is OpenNode 2 News, and we will have a list of items that represent a single article in the news feed. So each item or each article has a title, and it has a link, that's the hyperlink that gets you to the detail of the article, and a description of the article itself. So this is used to publish all of the news information for this particular feed, and it's compatible with just about every browser out there, every modern browser most definitely. Like we said earlier in our presentation, XML is compatible with the web, so this is an example of where that's true. In our next example, we'll take a look at a Google Earth file. Google Earth is a very popular application for viewing map data on the Earth, and Google Earth does accept an XML file known as a KML file to describe different place marks. KML can also be used to describe features on a map such as lines or paths or polygons, which is a way of expressing an area. So let's jump over to Google Earth, and we'll go ahead and open up a file. Now in the presentation here we have an example of a list of air monitoring data that's published by EPA. And in this case we have a lot of different files that showed emitters of different pollutants in the United States. And a lot of these are actually compressed KML files, those are KMZ. But we have a few here that are KML, uncompressed files. And in this case, I've got it listed here. It's going to be the SO2 file. We'll open this up in Google Earth. And sure enough, you can see these little place marks that have appeared on the map. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in real close to one of these little place marks we see on our map. So we can see a couple of different facilities on the map here in the form of these little purple balloons. And for each one of these, we get a list of information about the pollutants that are discharged from this particular site. Okay. Now, if we look at this KML file in a text editor, we'll see that indeed it is just a text file, and it is something that can be viewed and read without any trouble. Okay, so sure enough, here's that same file we viewed in Google Earth, and we can see this is, I believe, sulfur dioxide is the name of the document, and it is comprised of a list of place marks. Now, each of these are the balloons that we saw. Each one is represented as a place mark tag. In the tag, we can see that it's got different details about it, including, let me close up the description here, the coordinates of that place mark. And the bulk of the data for each place mark is a description, which is the pop-up balloon we saw on Google Earth that included the details of the facility.